Well, are we ready? Are we to start? Basically, yes. Costa, could you please tell us a bit about yourself, just as a way of introduction? What is your experience in this industry for those people who may be haven't met you in person as yet, or have you just seen you remotely? And could you tell us briefly about your current position and your research? Just a moment. You know, I have a problem with my internet connection. Yeah, everything is okay here. Just a moment. Just a moment. So, how about the previous presentation? Everything great? Yeah. Have you listened to it? Yeah, it was. They promoted MemSource by saying it's a convenient system for integration. So yes, but yeah. By the way, MemSource is a fashion word now. Buzzword. Ah, now I see how it looks on your screen. Too much light there. Yeah, okay, let's start anyway. I am Konstantin Dranch, and I hope that most of you in this room know me already. For the last 5 years, I have been running translationrating.ru website and sending out questionnaires on an annual basis to translation companies in Russia, and for the last 2 or 3 years in Ukraine too. And I ask them about their months, production practices, and so on. And during the last 2 years, there have also been projects in UK and France, similar projects. And since 2014, I have been working for MemSource. I do like doing research of the market, and now within the last year, while working for MemSource, we have created a tool, technology for doing market research using intrasystem metrics, and I'll tell you about those. First of all, I would like to clarify something. Does everybody know about what big data is about? Who doesn't know what is big data? Please raise your hand. Konstantin, I believe that it's better for you as an expert to tell us about this. No, I suggest that you, as an expert, tell us about these things. Well, big data is a situation where company has access to huge amounts of data, users. For example, those data come from various systems, from example of thousands of stores or from Facebook, and those data are analyzed, and companies analyze them, trying to get some useful information out of them. And recently, there has been a number of companies handling big data. This is a fast-growing industry, and artificial intelligence is also applied there to analyze those big data. And companies make some practical conclusions out of it. And the most trivial option of using it is, say, Crowdin, a company who delivered their presentation today, has about 500,000 users. Yeah, they delivered their presentation yesterday. They said they have 700,000 users and 1 million unique visitors every month. Yeah, they have a huge number of users, and Sergey created a robot to analyze those users, their behavior, what sort of files they download, what they put on their profiles, and then the system identifies whom to call among those users and what to suggest to that person to put in the system. So in that way, analysis of big data is used. Of course, it's impossible for anybody to analyze manually some 100,000 users, but a robot can do it and helps in identifying those things. A useful case, right? Yeah, now we more or less understand it. Other industries. What is the impact of big data on Walmart, for example? Walmart used to have a system where they would rent out shelves in their stores to a number of vendors. And of course, a number of issues arise. You rent out shelves, and some products are selling fast, others are not so fast, and you have to change the shelves if something You have to change the pricing. If something sells well, you should order more something from China, or otherwise you have to decrease the price. But it's very difficult if you have many products. So they have put a robot in place to analyze things, to identify trends, and that way they significantly optimize their business, reducing their costs and increasing their profits. And there have been a number of examples like that. And the third example is this. Sorry, there are sound problems for interpreters. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, literally, there was a discussion about a dating platform, and we discussed their competitor, KeyKeeper, another dating website translated into several languages, and they were analyzing questions that potential spouses ask each other, and they analyzed how answers to those questions affect the probability of something good coming out of their first date. And there has been a number of articles they produced. For example, if a young lady says she likes beer, then there is 71% higher chances during the first date that something will happen. That's an example how robots handle big data, but we are not a dating industry, we are in a translation industry. But I was very happy too when I got this opportunity to measure huge amounts of data for a great number of users. Now I'll switch to my slides and show you how it works and how we can use it. Now there are big data platforms appearing within our industry, and it may be that we don't even know today how to use them, but in a year or a couple of years these will become a very important thing for companies, for organizations, and even translators will get some benefits from using those. But currently this is just the first attempt, and you will see how this first step, how this first ball is scored or not, if we use this pool analogy, depending on how we work. I don't know whether it was interesting for you. I see that everybody gets tired now, but anyway, my slides. Let us look at the slides. So, brief information about MemSource. MemSource is a cloud-based translation platform with translation memory like Trados, and maybe in order to automate the delivery of files, it can automate the delivery of files. Previously, emails would be used, but if you have 40 translators, it would take a long time. But using a platform like MemSource, you can quickly deliver files, original files, source files, in one click. So this is some sort of automation. What is important for us today is that in 5 years of MemSource existence, it has grown to 50 or now maybe 70,000 users. Of course, not so many as Crowdin has, but these are mostly translation companies with huge amounts, and on a monthly basis there are about 500 million words translated. So these are truckloads, so to say, truckloads and truckloads of some waste paper or waste sites which various translation companies translate using MemSource. And this includes delivery of orders in MemSource, and they get it back and they do it in one click. So I have explained it. What is the key difference between desktop systems like Memacue, Trados, AmigaT and others, and cloud-based ones in terms of big data? Desktop systems and servers would always store data within the organization. So if you are a huge translation agency or a big company with a translation department, you have your own server and you store your data on your premises. They are in your computer, which can be located in a data center or on your own premises with your system admin, but nobody other than you has access to those data. It is different with cloud-based cards. You can see this circle to the right. All those organizations are under the same umbrella, so to say, and all data are centralized in the company server. So for the whole pool of users, you can see what is going on, what are the trends, even without looking into the translator's data. It would not be important previously, I think, but now that cloud platforms grow, I think that not only MemSource but also other cloud-based platforms like SmartCat, XTMM, and others develop their analytics, and data becomes so big that you can now use them to extract some useful conclusions to analyze the market. Look, here on this chart you have the number of tasks done by translators, completed by translators in May 2016. You see almost 2 million tasks and almost 800 million words. A huge amount of information in very different language pairs with different levels of automation. And you can use those data for some very interesting conclusions. So I have to show that actually a cloud platform can give you a big view of the whole industry landscape. You can see which languages are growing, which languages are on the decline in terms of amounts, how MT works, TM works, and so on. What is the possible impact of those metrics, which I am sure will appear soon for every major player, and I think we are the first or one of the first major players to do it. But how does it affect the industry and you personally? If you are a translation company, then you get an opportunity to compare your data against those average for the industry. You're able to see areas where your costs are too high to start optimizing those and increase your profits. If you're a translator, then in theory you could implement something, some common quality metrics, common for many organizations, and then if you have delivered several orders within the same subject area for some organization and you got your score within the system, the same metrics can be used for another organization to show that, hey, look, I am a good translator. And actually within 3 years or maybe 2 years, if things go well, then you'll not need free tests anymore. Like, if a company looks for translators, for a translator good about translating snowboard stuff from Arabic into, say, Japanese, then it's very difficult to find that sort of translator. But if there is a huge platform and there are those analytics within that platform, then you can immediately find that translator, but also test him or her. Not even test, but to see the results, because there are technical metrics you can rely on. So you can imagine the impact of that on changes in the industry. So if you are a translator, you'll not need to run through any tests anymore, and if you specialize in some narrow subject area, it will be very valuable for your customers. Of course, it also works for translation customers alike, because they can monitor the performance of their in-house employees against the industry on average, because there are many companies who work and operate, but they don't know. Maybe they compare some of their translators against others, they compare their project managers against each other, but they don't compare their performance against the industry. They cannot assess it because, and those people don't have no incentives for professional growth. And there are companies where it's considered normal to translate 2 to 3 pages a day, and that's great, but there are freelancers who try fast to translate 10 pages, and they could be of great value for that company, but the company is not aware of them. And with big data and access to that data, the situation may change. People being more professional, people growing professionally, to improve their skills, will have some advantages, some benefits in a more transparent environment. And in terms of technology, the bonus from a technology perspective is this: you can monitor the market trends, you can see where are the bottlenecks, and identify solutions to optimize those. This is how it could affect the industry, in theory. Here I have a slide about several ideas how to create those common quality metrics and kill those free tests in the industry. And one of those ideas is what Taos suggests. For example, Taos is a company involved in data collection to create machine translation systems, to arrange some tools, and they create a common quality tool which is called DQF, and the idea is this: all CAD tools would connect to the same quality system, and if you use CAD tools to translate, then customers would use the same quality metrics, because now everybody has their own understanding of quality. For some people, they calculate the number of bugs per thousand words. Some others want proper terminology to be used. For some others, they want that marketing text would work in the same way in the target language, so that people would buy products reading that text and so on. So it's difficult to find three companies within the same conference with 100% similar quality systems. And that's bad, because of course it results in conflicts and misunderstanding what is good translation all about. And big data within the same and DKF are two ideas of how to resolve this issue. I like the way Upwork has resolved it. Upwork is one of the largest freelance platforms worldwide, if not the biggest ones, and they have their own tests for pretty much every subject area. Say German terminology for machine building. And somebody looking for a freelancer is then able to identify a freelancer out of somebody within top 10%, top 30%, depending on how many people have run through that test. For example, if 10% is 2 people only, then 30% is maybe 50 people, and it will be possible to choose somebody among them. Everything transparent and clear. And the only thing is some industry standards to have. Maybe a similar approach could be used for real professional translations in our industry. And here we show how the system works. If there is no system admin in this room, I'll skip this part. I'll just briefly tell you that we have a system itself on 200 servers, or even larger number of those. And there is some analytical hub, some data warehouse, as we call it, with some separate software, particular software, and with a separate cluster, server cluster. And there is a free platform for data visualization connected to it, and it can be used. The platform called Kibana can be used to create something, and we have used about 200 variables to sort those data, and that's how this thing looks. You can select a lot of things here and create some charts out of it. I have been using it, and you're welcome to write to me if you got any interesting idea what could be measured using a huge pool of users. For example, amounts by languages. I think this slide shows exactly precisely the amount per language, or maybe something else. So what can be tracked, what can be measured using our current system? These are translation memory usage, MT usage, translator performance, project manager performance, profit margin per project in your business. It would be nice for a translation company to know, for example, how much money, how much profit they have got per project, right? Especially taking into account not only their margin on translator, but also project managers' working hours. It can be tracked and used for something. For example, translator is too fast, like 100 pages a day, probably worth looking how he or she is doing it. It may be that he or she puts those 100 pages into Google Translate. You can imagine a project manager, and there is a message saying, your translator, John Doe, has translated 100 pages yesterday. Let us check whether this is some sort of miracle or something tricky or what. In practice, when I start analyzing those data, it turns out that life is not so simple. Of course, nothing comes without an effort, and you have to clean those data. You have to understand how to use them. There are lots of test data in the system. Sometimes translation is not completed, and so on. So in order to get any practical parameter, you have to spend about 1 week to go through those data using also developers. Now we are done with the theoretical part and we are switched to the practical one. These are examples of what I have already managed to get out of those data, and maybe you'll see something that has impact on your business. These are data on a great amount of users.
On the left side you can see so-called diagram. This is the use of translation memory. You could see how many works are created in mem source every month, and 85% of this work are created with the use of translation memories people download. They connect it to memory file and they save time. 15% don't do it, don't know what they use, but maybe they don't need it. And terminology, it's completely different issue because only the half of the project is used with the help of terminology database. If translation memory automatically gives economies, the terminology is only for people who take it seriously, who want to keep the terminology during a long period of time. They can add during the translation some term into the database, after that to get it from there, but the half of them don't do it. As for me, this is the most interesting slide, and it shows which saving companies have due to translation memory use. On horizontal x-axis, unfortunately I can't use the finger or something else to do it. Maybe Kirill might help me, but you have the keyboard, you can use it. Here there are big users with big scope of translations. On vertical axis you can see the total volume in percentage. There are no names. There are no number of pages, but here there are huge volume. It's about 9 billion words. I can't say how many pages, but many of them. Full truckloads full of manuals, probably. And from down you can see the repeats and 100% correlations. After that 100%, 95, 85% correspondences, and the more precise they are, the more time you save. We can see that the normal user who takes it seriously in his volume, take into consideration all the languages, all the content, gets about 30%, sometimes up to 40% of saving thanks to Translate TM. I multiply these 9 millions for 30%. And here the word costs 12 cents in average. So taking theoretical parameters, these people saved $300 million just using TM during 6 months. Now about machine translation. On the left side you can see in which language pairs MT is used at the moment. Blue line means segments that were made with machine translation, and dark lines are segments made without MT. You can see that in the pair English to Chinese, MT is used more often. MT inside our system takes about 31% of our project, and it's a curious fact that people don't do their own database. They use generic data common from Microsoft and Google. Especially for Svetlana, there is evaluation of project with Global. And here you can see how people use MT in the process. On x-axis you can see different languages. On y-axis it is the same, the level of matches, and below you can see 100% match. It means that while translating, the person could see that MT is fine for him. He just saved the segment and he didn't change anything in it. But the further we go up, we can see the more and more changes, about 10% in different languages. It is less from Portuguese to Spanish, go without any editing at all. About 8-9% time was saved already, and the person could translate something else after. And there is a big volume, about 80% that was translator that was used from MT with further editing, slide editing or series editing. And there is a curious observance from English to Russian. More than 5% goes without machine translation. Maybe our language is not lucky, but from Russian to English it's fine. I think nobody had this data before, and it allows us to see how it's possible to use MT. Can you imagine up to 80% content goes from MT with further editing? Just few percent write it from scratch, but it doesn't. But not with Russian. It is rather significant, but not billions, of course. And that would be interesting to translators, how many pages people translate a month in pages. These are data for April 2016. On x-axis we can see translators, 1000 translators. Not all of them are in the system, because we have translators who use their own accounts, and translators who were invited into the system by translation agency who gave them access. Correspondingly, here we are talking about those invited. I took the first stage of work. Sometimes data can be mixed if translation agency didn't break down the work in few stages in the chain. And just open the editor. This first part, those who translate more than 30 pages a day, that's probably when somebody is editing, not translating. But there are a lot of translators who makes between 10 to 20 pages a day and rather stable. We are not talking about the today's load 10 days. We are talking about the regular load 10 pages a day. In industries, there is a common opinion the translator should translate 5 to 6 pages a day, maybe a little more, but as we can see, efficient translators can do more. So there is something to think about. If it's normal for these people to make more than 10 pages a day, what should be your productivity? That is a cool site about productivity of project management in translation industry. It is test organization. I called it accidentally project manager. How many projects were made in a month? You can see it separately for your organization, or you can compare it. You can compare it to the benchmarking of the industry, and you could see that the biggest part of project managers make 1 to 10 projects a month. And if you make more than 100 projects a month, you as a project manager is out of 10% of the best. If you change this data to your translation agency, you can see 7 managers can do the work better than the 90% of the managers of the industry. So maybe it's high time for them to have salary increase, or to avoid them in some other way, or to train them, for example. This data can be used for organization management in an efficient way, or maybe Olga or Barbara are doing here not a small project, but some complicated and huge project, and that project is a good figure in this. That's all from me, and I would like to say that there are practically no limits in the system. We just need to invent which data impact our work and which data should be measured, and we can get almost everything. We are limited only by our fantasies. And what you can do now, you can write me a letter with your ideas. What more should be measured? In what way organizations could get used if they can compare data of each other? Of course, we can't show the data of concrete organizations, but we can make some average industry indicators, KPIs, and that's what we didn't have before. Please advise me what would you like to measure, and we can do it. And confidentiality issue, of course, which data in any case shouldn't be published. Of course, it's clear we will never log in and get access to the translator's data, but also there are productivity data, and maybe it's not worth to compare the data of two translators if the data of his previous company are used. I'm sure that many of you have questioned that all this is evil. Companies start tracking us, but I would advise you to look at it from other way. Almost all the tools are making analytics now, and in few years, in the same way as tracking in Google and Facebook became a standard, this transparency will become standard as well. To use this data to take rational decisions, to understand what's going on with the company. I think it should be considered as a process that can't be avoided, and we just can't have it. Just try to put yourself into a place of the technology development and think about what can help, what can make our industry more productive and more useful for our customers. And I think that in this data you can find a lot of examples of what helps us. And thank you very much for your attention, and you can send me your questions to this mail. Thank you very much, Kostya. And I have a first question. To you. Kostya, could you tell me, please? Big data in our industry, can it be a product? I will clarify my question. Kirill, I'm sorry, I can't hear you properly. Could you repeat your question, please? What do you think big data can be product in our industry? What do you mean by commodity? Can we sell this data? Can we trade this data? I don't think so. I will just publish the open data into some source. For example, Common Sense Advisor can buy data from MemSource and use them in their paid reports. They are not data of MemSource, they are data of our users correspondingly. Every user owns his own data. We can see just general trends in the industry, and I can't see any sense to sell this data to anybody if there will be in open access. So you're ready to share them, right? Yes, just write me which data do you want to get, and I will post them into my blog. And I will give the floor to another person. Hello, my name is Vladimir. I have one more question to you. Is there a technical possibility of access in the system to personal data? Is there a theoretical possibility? I don't mean that we will use it. And the difference between local server for organization, is it connected to the cloud, global cloud, or it's also local servers that keeps data locally, and any entries from external IPs will be rejected? MemSource doesn't have private cloud. I don't know, will it influence to the second part of your question or not. MemSource is a general cloud with one pack of data. I know that other providers can have it. Word, XTM can provide this kind of cloud. When they make this analytics, so they will have this data. We have just common cloud, and the users can get data to our servers of data processing to research for the organization. Do you have plans for some local storage that will be disconnected from a cloud? No, we don't have these plans. Our principle is built on the collaboration with the user, and the idea is that we can create the project on our side to give it to client, and after that client can give it to you. It's not possible with private cloud. Didn't you consider the fact that many organizations working with confidential data, commercial as well, will refuse to use this model because data protection won't depend of them but of third parties, including MemSource and development that will provide system support. That's clear, but our politics is that we have strong system of data protection, and for private organizations it would be very complicated to make something similar to ours. Average organization can't make such high protection of data as we do. If it is super confidential data, people just don't work with MemSource. But we have a lot of companies who do and who are fine with this program.
Microphone.
Kostya, I have two questions to you. First of all, I wanted to ask, can I, being your client, refuse having my data to be the part of your big data? Do you inform me? Do you need my approval to do it? I want to work with you, for example, but I don't want my data to go into this pool. We just added this option, but the condition of usage of MemSource means that we will use this data, but in the future we will have a box in the system allowing to exclude it. But at the moment I can't, right? By default you will do it. We don't process your data, we process your project. And my second question is that it's not very correct to compare this data to data that are processed by Google or Facebook, because in translation memories the data are not posted by the content owners. The owners might not know about it at all. And here the question is about awareness, what's going on, because as far as I can hear these conversations, the main fear is that you are the content owner, and then this content goes somewhere, and after that it's being analyzed, and after that, applying some basic analytical skills, you can make a lot of conclusions. But my question is that I have some cognitive dissonance about that, because you can do traditional polling in a good way. Maybe you could have the same results from content owners. Maybe they can simply answer your questions. For example, what is the efficiency of your top 10 project manager? What are the volumes of your translation projects? Maybe you can get the same data in traditional way from the people who will aware which information they share with you. In theory it's possible, but in practice when people participate in pools, they lie or they compare apples to oranges. Some people have big projects, some people have small projects, so on and so forth. and maybe the number of the project won't be important for people. That's a question about what users need to make their work more efficient. Maybe there are some internal sources, analytics that will be made in personal cabinet of the user. My main clients or my main subject areas or my TMs, my leverage my TM leverage. That's what consumers need. That is just an example of what can be done, what I showed you today. I think that not just me, any CAD tool, SDL as well, in the nearest future will have this similar system, and we won't go from it because it will be implemented into the industry, because it will make us more transparent, more efficient. It will give the possibility to use artificial intelligence, and there are a lot of possibilities here. Yes, sure, but I heard from big clients serious doubts that their content is being analyzed, and I think if you are going to develop this direction, to addition to traditional pooling that you did in the past, you can have very solid ground. Why do you consider this kind of analytics more perspective in comparison with traditional questionnaires that is made among the owners of the content or process? The question is very simple. These data is single format data. They got from one source. They are precise. They reflect reality. And answering the first part of your questions, user told us that cloud CAD tools won't survive because they don't have design. But as we can see, the CAD tools are in increase. And that is just the perception of the industry, and I hope it will change to the direction that I showed you.
Good to see you. Too bad you are not here. It's very nice here. You said that you don't believe that there will be a market for big data or linguistic data, or maybe I got it wrong. In my speech yesterday, I predicted that there will be a market for linguistic big data. So let's put a bet. So we will see in 3 years, I won't say 1 year, in 3 years, if you were right or if I was right. How about that?
What would you bet?
Bottle of vodka.
Okay, I'll bet a bottle of Armagnac from 1960s.
Okay, fine. Fine. Okay, in 3 years we will see. The point is, you are right, the market doesn't exist yet. And due to many technical and legal problems, the confidentiality, how to maintain confidentiality of personal data, for example, how to anonymize, it's not easy to solve. And then the ownership issue and the difficulty of trading different parts of large translation memories, for example, or corpora. Who owns what? How does that person receive payment for that part? There is currently no systems that would keep track of that or handle this kind of online contracting or this smart automatic contracting. But there are, let's say, there are no systems yet, but there are technologies that have been developed for this. They are just not yet in use. So I'm optimist, and I would think that these days technologies will come to use pretty soon, because there's a lot of pressure for creating a market for such valuable data, not only to be of use for the final users like machine translation systems, but also for the data owners to make money with the data. So when they can sell it to several or hundreds or thousands of customers, whereas they are now selling it to one, then that's a rather attractive perspective, isn't it?
Таким образом, если я проиграю пари, то
This way, if I lose the bet, I will lose much more than just bottle of Armagnac, right? But here I would like to give you parallel with propagation memory. As you know, there are few systems where users can use common translation memory connected between many users if they put their data themselves, and many customers are not happy with that, but there are a lot of other fields, for example localization of mobile apps, that is called in the same way, and they like it. They can use this common translation memory and to get efficiency and instant translation to many languages. There is a market for everything. We don't have propagation memory so far, but it's just an example that general data, this synergy works. And now there is a new type of intelligence, crowd intelligence. If before only one person was trying to guess it, now you can put this guess into internet and have a look how many of your friends or acquaintances can find the right answers to it. It is a new type of intelligence. And in this way, humanity is trying to withstand the coming of computer age, and this is a big trend, big data, and there is a huge potential in it. And now we are standing on the threshold of the first translation step to collaborative data. I think it's very interesting, and potentially it will have huge effect on everybody of us.
Then I would probably like to ask or maybe make some comment, don't know how to say it better. It would be really great if you add several boxes, like whether to include personal data into analytics, whether to like if you wanted to participate, if don't, then okay, that's yours, that's in the cloud, but I think it would be expedient. I think it's logical, and we'll include those checkboxes. I will be quick. Hi, Kostya, I'm Sergey from Elangul. I have a very practical question. What are your plans about including these features in your API? When would companies become capable of using online analytics provided through your API, your program interface? As I already said, for users, they can already use it now. If you have some corporate edition, then users can get those data in their account and visualize any of those data using Kibana. Now they only see visualizations that we have already added to the dashboard, but if they want to play with those data, they can also request access and include a visualization tool and drill down into those. But it only makes sense for users with huge amounts of data. One user only gets access to their organization. Yeah, to continue to follow on this one, I have almost created a question on Facebook for you while waiting for the microphone, but now I will say it. When there's not a lot of data, with regard to personal data, we often see a situation where standard analytical tools like selection of key translators, key projects, average amount, or any other metrics, business metrics, I mean, it would probably be possible for system to support and train market players and suggest various models, because when you just provide raw data, it's not exactly what should be done. Well, that's what I would like to have. you could then use notifications to create a whole system of support for company management, like what is going on. You would see it not only in drafts or charts, but also through messages, notifications, like if something happened which needs your attention. And you would be getting those data in real time, not in a year and a half when you have already lost millions of dollars. And again, I'd like to say that I think that any and every tool now will be developing in that direction. I believe that Trados server will also have some features if they catch up in time. Kostya, thank you. Thank you, many thanks to you. Cheers. See you. Thank you, Konstantin. It has been really